When he saw me coming with my men, he said to me, "Bring them over here. I will have them for my breakfast." The words clung to me like a shadow that wouldn't leave. Even after all these years, it was in the dense, untamed heart of the Congo Basin that I met Kozodi, the man, the myth, the feared hunter known in every corner of this forsaken land. His reputation had preceded him like an unstoppable flood. They said he could kill a lion with his bare hands, that he communed with the spirits of the jungle, and that he alone had walked the path to meet the ancient Vuruku Ebema. We stood frozen in front of him, myself and 5 men from our village, all of us gripping our spears, unsure if we would leave this place alive. I had come to the jungle seeking answers, sent by the elders of our village, tasked with finding the one person who knew the way to Vuruku Ebema, the ancient being who was said to hold knowledge older than time itself. Kozodi looked down at us from his elevated position, standing on a thick tree root, his chest bare except for a necklace made of lion teeth. His eyes, a strange mix of wisdom and danger, pierced through the thick vegetation like they could see into the very depths of our souls. He grinned as he came down from his perch, his words still echoing, "No need to tremble, little ones, I was only joking, I won't eat you, yet." His chuckle was deep and unnerving, but there was a flicker of something in his voice, an invitation perhaps, a challenge. I was the leader of this group, though at that moment, I felt far from it. Still, I had come too far to back down now. "We are not here to be eaten," I said, stepping forward and keeping my voice steady. "We are here to find Vuruku Ebema. The elders of our village sent us to seek knowledge, and they said you are the only one who knows the way." The jungle around us was alive with sounds, the rustling of leaves, distant calls of birds, and the ever-present hum of insects. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decay, but in the presence of Kozodi, the jungle seemed to stand still, as if waiting for his command. He crossed his arms over his chest and stared at me for a long time before finally nodding. "Vuruku Ebema is not a name to be spoken lightly. The path to him is treacherous, and none return unchanged. If you are certain, I will take you." The men behind me murmured in discomfort, but none of them voiced their doubts. We had come too far into the depths of the Congo to turn back now. Kozodi started walking, and without hesitation, we followed him. The jungle closed in around us as we moved deeper into its heart. The light from the sun above was barely able to penetrate the thick canopy, casting the forest floor in an eerie twilight. Vines hung low from the trees, and the ground beneath our feet was soft and damp, sucking at our boots with every step. Kozodi didn't say much as we walked. His eyes were always scanning the forest, as if he were waiting for something or someone to appear. Every now and then, he would stop to listen, his head cocked to one side, and then continue forward without a word. It was as if the jungle itself was speaking to him in a language only he understood. It wasn't long before we reached the first sign of danger. A low growl reverberated through the trees, making the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. My men froze, their spears at the ready, but Kozodi didn't even flinch. Instead, he raised a hand, signaling us to stop. "Do not move," he whispered. Out of the shadows, a massive leopard appeared, its golden eyes locked onto us, its muscles rippling under its spotted coat as it crouched low, ready to pounce. My heart pounded in my chest, and I could feel the fear rising in my throat. The men behind me whispered prayers under their breath, but Kozodi stood as still as a statue. Then, without warning, he made a sound, a deep, guttural growl that seemed to come from the very earth beneath our feet. The leopard paused, its ears twitching, its eyes narrowing. For a moment, I thought it would attack, but instead, it turned and slunk back into the jungle, disappearing as silently as it had come. Kozodi turned to us with a grin. "The jungle listens, remember that." We continued walking, and as we moved deeper into the jungle, I began to notice changes. The trees were taller here, their trunks wider, and the air felt heavier, almost suffocating. Strange plants grew in the shadows, their leaves large and waxy, and their colors brighter than anything I had ever seen. The sounds of the jungle grew louder too, no longer the peaceful hum of insects, but the deep, unsettling calls of creatures I couldn't name. We camped at night under the massive branches of a baobab tree. The air was thick with humidity, and the only light came from the small fire we had built. The jungle was never silent. Strange sounds echoed through the trees, making it impossible to sleep peacefully. My men were uneasy, their eyes darting toward the shadows, as if expecting something to lunge out at any moment. I found Kozori sitting alone by the fire, sharpening his machete with slow, deliberate strokes. His face was illuminated by the flickering flames, casting deep shadows over his features. "What is Uruku Ebema?" I asked, unable to hold the question any longer. The stories I had heard as a child painted him as a god, an immortal being who had lived since the dawn of time. But standing on the edge of this journey, the tale seemed more real, more dangerous. Kozori didn't look up from his work. Uruku Ebema is not a man, not like you or me. He is something older. Some say he was once human, but that was a long time ago. Now, he is something else, something that should not be disturbed. My stomach churned at his words. I glanced at the men, huddled close together, their faces pale and drawn. We were not warriors. We were simple men, sent by the elders on a quest that felt more like a death sentence with each passing hour. "What does he want?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Kozori stopped sharpening his blade and looked at me with those piercing eyes. "What all ancient beings want: power, control, dominion over life and death. But Uruku Ebema is different. He doesn't seek to rule, he seeks to know, and the price for his knowledge is steep.